going to be a real great hour to share incredible amount of information. So you should see my screen and all that. And let's just start going, because I got to give the floor over. My assistant wants to say something to you now. She's working today. You may know her. Some people call her Google. For me, her name is Amy, and she's busy right now. But she said she wanted to introduce me as well as Megan introducing me. So I'll just give her the floor for a moment to say what she needs to.
Hi, I'm Amy, Jim's Google Assistant. He's so excited about the opportunity to meet you all and share the way cool digital tools. Just between you and me, he speaks a little fast and it sometimes sounds like he's making stuff up, but don't worry. If you have any questions that he doesn't answer, I'm always here to help. Jim, it's all yours.
Hey, don't you hate when artificial intelligence gets sassy on you? I don't know. So story time. Let's just start it up right here. Okay, so imagine a device that's so small it can fit minuscule in the palm of your hand, yet it's so big that it's as large as a piece of furniture. It uses radio frequency waves to live stream communications that deliver it instantaneously. Touch sensitive, and going to be voice controllable, of course. Now, with all that's going on the past couple of years, and goodness knows a lot has gone on, we might have missed it. But back in 20, this occurred. In fact, it was November 2 of 1920. Oh, 1920, wait a minute, not 2020? Yeah, 1920, you're right. And what happened on that date was the first radio station, KDKA in Pittsburgh, came on board. And why did they come on board? Well, they came on board to talk about an election. Kind of surprising. There was also a pandemic happening at that time too. So things don't change too much, do they? But what really doesn't change with technology is that everybody wasn't comfortable with it. And in fact, even 100 years ago, there was a lot of murmur that's out there about this radio thing. You know, what do we need this another piece of technology, and everything stops when it happens, and oh yeah, what's next? A talking picture too. Radio transmission wasn't new in 1920 at all. Years before, the first radio transmission was hobbyist, you know, Morse code and stuff like that. But it became practical, it became something on the air. And in fact, that's the perfect starting point for our journey right now. See, it's a journey today when we talk about technology. It's not just about technology. It's about progress. It's about application. And you may have heard of terms that we're going to cover, terms like the metaverse and augmented reality, and go, what does that have to do with us in our industry? So we got a lot to unpack. But as we do the unpacking, I want you to do something for me. Either using your phone or your computer, whatever you have, you might have both of them next to you. I'm going to want you to go to that website, menti.com. I'm going to want you to enter those numbers, and then you're going to enter a single word. And that word is going to answer the question in one word: describe your relationship with technology. And so we're going to now put it on the screen here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it large. So we have that information. So again, what you want to do is go to menti.com, use the code 5226-7128, and then in the little box, and you actually have the opportunity to put more than one word in there, but I want you to put in the word that really does define how you feel about technology. And so as you're starting to do that right now, you know, everybody's going to have different words. I mean, it could be aware, immersive is our starting point there, and that is a great word. Overwhelmed, and like, oh, here we go, frustrating, exciting, oh my gosh, you guys are all over the place, but I'm not surprised at all. Annoyed with, that's two words, by the way, but I'll let you be on that one, not a problem. Dependent, how can something be dependent, overwhelmed, and comfortable, and exciting, and integrated, and oh my gosh, it really is amazing when we think about where we are with technology, because we are all over the place. I think those four words that are popping up in the center really say it all. Overwhelmed, no question about it, changing way too fast, comfortable, excited by it, and completely dependent on it. It's love-hate, somebody said. Again, two words, no hyphen there, but I'm cool with all that. In fact, these are amazing words that you're giving us. And really, I think any one of us can pull one of those words out and we can say, yeah, that's me. And matter of fact, there's a lot of me's in there. And that's really, really interesting to think about as we have this conversation with technology, because a lot of us think that it's just here and there's nothing we can do about it. But the reality is technology's helped us really change a path of what's happening. And as we said, past 2 years has been so change generating for us. So really what's changed? Well, you hear everyone talking about the great resignation and this and that, and is it true, is it not true? Reality is this has impacted our jobs. It's impacted our livelihood. And in fact, a lot of people are taking stock in the fact that maybe we don't want to be working 60, 70 hours a week. We want to enjoy the time that we have. One thing that's changed and really expedited in the past 2 years is this thing: shortage of tech developers. There's not enough people out there to help us create and implement and support the technology that we're used to using. And we're going to get back to that point as we delve deeper into this conversation. There's no doubt hybrid, virtual, here to stay, to grow. Hey, just understand this. And I know if you've seen me talk before, it's probably beating the same message over and over again. But tech doesn't go away. It develops, it morphs, it changes. So the fact that we now have this love-hate relationship with tools like Zoom, which we're all on right now, I don't really think there's Zoom hatred out there. I think we're just tired of the darn pandemic. And Zoom is a tool that I know 40 years ago, 50 years ago, growing up, and I was watching the Jetsons. Guess what? Having the ability to have a video phone call was amazing. And now it's, oh, another Zoom today. So ain't going anywhere. Clearly, what else has changed? We're focused on safety, and that's a great thing. We're focused on the safety of our guests. We're focused on our own safety as well. And I think that's going to permeate over the next couple of years. And clearly, there's more tech tools that are out there, which means there are more ways that we can connect with our clients, with our customers, with our constituents. And that's really, really important, because since there are so many different ways, it means that we have to figure out which of those ways are best for them, not for us, but for them. Now, just put this in the back of your head. We've talked for years, we being the folks in this industry, in technology, about how new stuff's going to be developing. But the past 2 years really increased that incredibly. And most people far smarter than me would say something like 5-10 years from now, 2025 is where we probably would normally be, or 2027, where we should be, in 5 years. Let me say it a different way, because I said it poorly at that point. In 2022, we're now probably where we would be in 2027. Whatever that means, we've gone so quick on the rate of increasing adaptation of technology. I need to speak better today, Anyway, Google told you I speak fast, so I just will default back to her. We also always do this little thing about, oh, tech is good, tech isn't good. Zoom is good, Zoom is horrible. I'm a slave to Zoom. I'm thankful for Zoom. Tech isn't bad. Tech isn't good. It's a tool. If we gotta define it, and I know we like doing that, I'll define it this way: way cool, way creepy. I think we might see things in both those spaces today that play in all that area. But for us, the game plan is simple. I want to talk about the metaverse. You're going, what does that have to do with our industry? And I can come back at you and saying it has everything to do with where we're going, but maybe just not right now. We're going to talk about augmented reality. And in fact, those two terms frequently are tied together with the nomenclature of mixed reality. Important to know that. AI is everywhere. If you have one of those Google assistants, like I have Amy, and Amy and I do have a love-hate relationship sometimes, we know that AI can be frustrating, yet incredibly, incredibly impactful in terms of what we do. But what it is and how we use it, we need to get a better handle on. The whole DIY issue of this technology that's out there, and remember, we talked a minute or two ago about the fact that there aren't enough developers. Guess what, gang? You and me, we are today's developers, and I'm going to show you a couple of really cool approaches to that. I'm going to have to talk about 5G, because as we look down the road, not just yet, even though all the marketing would lead you to believe otherwise, that's going to be a complete game changer for how we do events and how we do business. And we got some more stuff in store as well. So virtual, augmented, all this stuff. Have you gotten sick and tired, if you're reading anything about technology or Facebook, to hear about the metaverse? And then they changed their name to Meta or Meta, or however you want to pronounce it. What is it? What is the metaverse? So I got a couple of definitions, and honestly, I'm not really sure that we're going to be able to satisfy us all, but let's give it a shot. First of all, virtual reality world, that's going to be the next phase of the internet. Now, understand, from the geek's perspective, we've gone through a couple of phases over the past 20 years, from text only to a very social thing to what now might be a sort of added life thing. And if you look at the bottom right corner of the screen, and if you were thinking about and doing some stuff with cool tech about 10, 12 years ago, you might have jumped into a place online called Second Life, where you were able to actually live, spend money, have friendships and relationships, completely virtual. But it was so far ahead of where we were with technology. But guess what? That's what the metaverse is going for. Now, didn't like that definition. I'll throw another one out there that you'll like even less. The convergence, AR, VR, web. Oh my gosh, this is getting really, really confusing to understand this. So let's make it really, really simple. Let's show you, theoretically at least, the next webinar location for the Lake George CVB. Now, you would think it's going to be on Zoom, but I'm going to give you a different approach. We're going to see a quick video on this one to see what you think about this. This is called Horizon, and it is by this Meta company. Do me a favor, put in the chat right now whether you have ever been in the metaverse. Just say have been or have not been. And by the way, did you get a good look at the people in there? Did you notice that none of them had legs? Don't you think it's a little bit creepy? But the bottom line is that a lot of people are looking at this. And what I'm seeing here in the chat is an awful lot of no, haven't, no. One or two of you have, and that's pretty cool as well. But when you think about this sort of conversation, it's like, well, look, we're all yearning to get back to face. So why are we talking about this metaverse as a tool for us in our industry? And you know, there might just be an application that's available to us right now. I have done some work with the folks at All Seated, and they had me on their observation board where I was looking at some of the products early on. But I want to show you something for a second. This company at All Seated, you probably know in our industry because they've been doing tables, and they've been doing layouts and room sets for us. But what we're going to do at this point is actually go into one of their rooms, and I want you to show what it might look like. Now, I'm never going to postulate that this is going to replace face-to-face meetings. This is not what this is about. I don't believe in the conversation that it's an either-or proposition. But let's take a look right here. There's not going to be any sound for most of this, but this is part of a demo that they have available that can literally replicate where you are and give you the ability to move around, to meet people. I'm going to move to this set area right here. Now I'm controlling the movement of this. So you can watch presentations from here. You can actually interact with different people. You can be in a space that almost, not entirely, I get it, but almost makes it feel like it's a more real type of meeting. Remember, as we talk about technology, this is not an either or proposition. This is not that, oh, this is going to replace going to a hotel or a convention center. But the flip side of what's happened the past couple of years with organizations being much more careful about their budgets is, maybe we can't send 10 people to this conference, but what if we were able to have them experience it virtually or have a split between the two? The word hybrid keeps being thrown around in our industry, and I don't think any one of us really has a clear-cut definition. But if we use it as a basic concept to understand that there's going to be both live and non-live components, and the sooner you, as a planner or as a supplier, can understand we're moving there, not that you have to be there in 2022, but that we're moving there, you're going to really get a sense of where this technology is likely to go. Remember, we said early on, technology doesn't move backwards. It just sometimes moves slower than we actually want it to. So I'm glad we were able to show that part of the mixed reality, but I want to show you another part of it right now. So I got the logo, and well, you see, if I was with you right now, I'd show you this demo live, but I'm in Queens, New York, and you're not, and you can't see my phone. So I did the next best thing. I put a video together that we're going to play. It's really, really short. And let's just go to here. Hold on one second. Sometimes it's tricky to get that video lined up here. So give me a second to make sure we can do that. And once we do, and we don't want it to be at the end, we want it to be at the beginning. So take a look at this. And I'm going to stop it a few times. So the first things first is we're going to go into my phone. So I've circled it there, and I have a group with augmented reality. You know you're a geek when you have your own folder that says augmented or virtual reality, so I do. And within there, there's an application that's called ROAR, R-O-A-R. So what I'm about to do, and what you're about to see, is I'm about to take that logo from the PowerPoint and hover the app over there. So I'm hovering it right over there, and it'll take usually about a second or two, and then so what if that simple logo was nothing more than an entree point for you to be able to get into an experience that you can give to your customers and to your colleagues? What we did there was we used this tool called ROAR to build the augmented reality over that. And all I did, it took me 5 minutes to do this, okay? We're talking about 5 minutes to take the logo, to put it into a platform, to put a YouTube video on top of it, and then to have it out there. So you see, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me just do this. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. I want really to be with all of you right now. The conversation that we're having at this point is not a conversation about technology. And I need you to know that. I need you to be aware about that. The conversation that we're having right now is a conversation about creativity. It's a conversation about using the technology and being able to apply it in such a way that you can extend the reach of the technology to be able to connect with the people you need to connect with. That's all this is about. So as we talk about things such as virtual and augmented reality and the metaverse and all that, it really is nothing more than our ability to be able to be sure that we are staying connected. So always want you thinking, how can I use that? What's the way that that might be able to integrate into our next marketing approach, or people visiting our community, or the people attending the conference, or my customers I'm trying to connect with at the conference? Conversation isn't about tech, it's about our creativity. So that's using augmented reality. So haven't heard the name Apple in this yet, okay, but they are not out of this conversation at all. In fact, if you really are listening to the stuff that's coming out, either this year, maybe early next year, they will be coming out with glasses of which a prototype you see on the screen right now, that is augmented reality, to be able to position content over glasses that you're wearing. Some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, didn't Google try that about 6 or 7 years ago and fail miserably? No, they did on both counts. And guess what? They were too early. They also weren't run by marketers, they were run by geeks, and that's always a problem. But Apple is working not only on augmented, but on virtual, which means the metaverse. And that looks like it's going to be more of a gaming tool. But in the past couple of weeks, what's really interesting is people are seeing these components, these snippets of information that says that they're putting together an entirely new operating system. And by the way, there was a huge Apple event just the other day, and they're talking about their phones. And if you're taking a look at what they're doing, they're all getting ready for this next big thing. And if you're still not convinced, it's moving this direction, I'll leave you with this. Meta has over 10,000 people right now working on mixed reality. You know, the conversation here is, okay, this is cool, this isn't cool, I like it, I don't like it. The conversation here is, let's follow the money. Let's follow where the companies are. So Meta has 10,000 people. Apple has 2,000 people alone working on mixed reality, just working on these applications. Microsoft has developed it already for their Power Apps, and Google has a secret, although it's not too secret since I know the name, project called Project Iris. You don't need to do anything with this right now, possibly, but you do need to be paying attention. You need to be paying attention because this decade is going to be the decade of mixed reality, and how it impacts our industry and what we're able to do with it is going to define how we're able to continue connecting with our customers and with our clients out there. Okay, mixed reality there, AI here, Google's Amy notwithstanding, but let's get definitions on the table again. I don't like to talk about stuff unless we really define it well. And there's two terms, there's actually more than two, but we're going to simplify it here. Two terms that I want to be clear about. General artificial intelligence. And that is when a machine, as you can see on the screen, learns any task. It can do it on its own. It's not what we have today, although it's the stuff of sci-fi that we'll talk about in a second. What we have is narrow AI. It's stuff like Alexa. It's stuff like Google Home. It's Siri. It's speech and facial recognition. And by the way, facial recognition definitely on the side of way creepy these days. But understand that when we're talking about artificial intelligence in 2022, we're not talking about the bots taking over the universe. We're talking about applications that support what we're doing, but still, if we're smart business people, we need to use that information with a grain of salt, because it doesn't replace our own minds. It doesn't replace what we can do. It augments it. So a couple of examples in our industry. If you haven't heard of Wordly, they've been around for about 3 years, maybe a little bit more than that. And they do real-time translation at events strictly through an app. So it's not a free service, it's a pay service. But they use AI to be able to take whatever language that the speaker is speaking in and have the person with their phone be able either to see the words on the screen or plug in their headset and hear them with real-time language translations. You're going, well, Google Translate does that. But this is a one-to-many application designed for our industry. Pretty amazing when you think about it. So AI applied to what we're doing in a very focused core context. Amazing stuff that's there. Otter, you may know of them as a transcription tool, but you know they're built into Zoom as well. And Zoom does have closed captioning otherwise, but this whole idea of language being a barrier to what we do really is so, it's so 1997, okay? I mean, when do we think about it? We've gotten to a point where language shouldn't be the barrier, the same way that distance isn't necessarily a barrier for people to be able to participate. Hence what we're doing right here. I'm a couple 100 miles away, yet we are connecting. We're able to, maybe not the same way, but we're able to stay contacted. You may not have heard of Twine. They've come out in the past couple of years in our industry, and they do this virtual speed, call it speed dating networking for our industry. That's really, really cool. But if you're really paying attention to our industry's trades, you might have seen that headline over the past couple of weeks that they bought a tool called Glimpse. So let's just back up on this just a bit so you can take a look. Twine actually, again, is networking. Glimpse is a tool that deals with Zoom breakout rooms. And I've actually just been in touch with the sales folks at Twine. And in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be releasing this ability to make your Zoom breakout more visually appealing and more visually like what we're used to at a face-to-face event. Not going to replace it. Remember, we're not going there. But I need you to understand that these tools are all being developed right now. I mean, think about it. If you tried with your organization in mid-2020 to have an online meeting, you probably had so many different issues. And one was a lot of these companies didn't have the ability to have you as a client because they were so overwhelmed. But a lot of it didn't seem to be ready for prime time. Think about it. We weren't ready for what happened in 2020 and 2021, but these companies, all the tech companies in our industry, struggling as they are with lighter than usual number of people who are working for them, are building out this next generation of tools that we're going to be using for our events. It's really cool. And I'm really excited. I'm hopefully going to be able to see this live, not in person, with Twine over the next couple of weeks. But I wanted you to be some of the first to know about that. This is one of those huge, huge purchases that may have a huge impact in our ability to have virtual meetings. Getting down to brass tacks, getting down to real applicable tools. Let's throw a few into here. We all have issues with photos, but erase.bg, which I use probably on a regular basis, is the best background picture eraser out there, and the AI is really stellar. Blur-photo.com, pretty cool there, does just what the name indicates. Upscale Pics is kind of tricky, but using artificial intelligence, you can have a really small picture and it can increase the resolution so it's large enough so you can use in different areas. So always like to throw a couple of tools in there. We'll have a couple more we'll talk about. If you have perpetual writer's block, if you're having a hard time figuring out the copy for your website, why don't you check out copy.ai, where you can just put in a couple of words and it'll give you about 25 different paragraphs that you could use. Cost, well, you can use it freemium, which means to try it out and to use it basically, it's free of charge. Love it when the technology is accessible for us. For branding purposes, Brandmark and Namelix are out there. Brandmark allows you to actually create a brand and a logo for your business using artificial intelligence. Namelix gives you the ideal name based on what your company does. Maybe you're looking for a secondary company, or maybe you want to strike out your unique meeting planning business on your own. Well, 2 AI tools, both of which you can use at no cost, that can be really valuable in that process. Okay, so talk mixed reality. Remember we talked earlier about this shortage issue of developers? It's pretty significant. They're in short supply. And right now we're looking at millions of development shortages. And wait, low code, have you heard of that? I've never heard of it. Anyway, I don't know how that got on the screen. So we're talking about low code basics, transform your, I don't understand. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Have you heard about low code? You should. Matter of fact, I think it's really, really critical. Basic explanation. It's a tool that doesn't require you to code to be able to do a job. You've used these tools if you've built a WordPress site or a Wix site or a Squarespace site. You're playing in low code, but we get to really cool stuff in the past couple of years that might change the game. How about this? How about that I can guarantee that you can build an app for your business or your event at no cost? None. And matter of fact, using a tool that you already have. What that might be? No, might be Google. And I'm going to show you a tool that's called Glide right now that's going to sort of define and may completely change the app business. Right here now, I have this app that's defined for an event that I taught at a few weeks ago. But right here it says, oh my goodness, it's over middle Pennsylvania chapter. Boy, speaking is a second language for me today, isn't it? But guess what? With this information that's here, it's pulling it all in from a Google Sheet. Now, I don't want the MPI logo on here. I would rather have the Lake George Chamber of Commerce logo that's here. Okay, perfect. So what am I going to do? Very simple. I'm just going to go to this app that's here. By the way, do this at what cost? No cost whatsoever. I'm on the right side of the screen right now. I'm just deleting the MPI logo and I'm putting that logo in there. And all this information that is here can be utilized and can be developed by you right now. Schedule event, sponsors for your event, speakers. That's a good old picture of me there. You get the idea that we have these tools that we could utilize. In fact, I've been doing a lot of creating of applications here, and we have this ability to create this app based on your basic Google spreadsheet. It's amazing when we think about this, but right now, we're at a point where even if you don't want to develop the entire app for your event, you can go into that tool and build a prototype, if for no other reason than to be able to share with other developers, this is what we want. Or if you want to take it into your own geeky hands, like I did with mine, you can build it. And it's not going to cost you anything. And if you do actually want to pay for it, it might cost you $20 to $30 a month. And have you tried to build an app? Now, one thing to note, these aren't apps that are in app stores. These are non-native. And that's important because that's where a lot of this is going. It's not going to be a download from the Apple Store or the Google Store. It's actually going to be, no, I won't call it a website because technically it's not, but it looks and feels and smells like it. And you put a URL in your browser on your phone, the site comes up, you pin it to your screen, and now you have all the updates always streaming there instantaneously.
Hey,
Now,
Tim,
if you
we had a question come in. Jennifer Kraft is asking, have you used the Graphite GTC as a low code builder before?
I haven't used that one. I hear it's very good. There's so many that are out there. You have AppyPie, you have the Graphite, you have Glide. All the low code plays in the same premise. And that premise is it needs to be easy to be used by you and me. Because if it isn't, then we're not going to go down there. So not familiar with that particular one in terms of using it myself, but do a dive into whatever you hear about, whatever you like. Google itself now, and Google obviously works within this Glide app, but Google has their own builder and Microsoft has their own builder. So low code within being able to build these sites is the way to go. Whichever one you try, let me know. Love to hear how it works. And for those people, Megan, who want to even dive deeper here, you have tools like Zapier that can actually connect different parts, different applications that aren't tied together in your organization and make them work together. I can take the information from Glide and connect it to my website. I can connect it to an email that I want to send out. It's all there. By the way, have you thought about building a bot? These tools out here between MobileMonkey and ManyChat and AppyPie all allow you to build a chatbot for your organization, to build it in a way that you can have step-by-step. Oh my goodness, I'm going to the conference. What questions do I need to ask? Well, when's registration open? Or where's the opening reception? Or who's the keynote speaker? Or what we found out is the #1 question asked of a chatbot for a conference, and that is, what's the Wi-Fi password? Okay, so you can do that using these tools. Cost of these tools, again, next to nothing. It's amazing how it's changing the game. I throw a lot at you right now, so I want to just pause for about 20 or 30 seconds. Think about bots. Just think for a second about these automated tools. Think about what you've seen, likely primarily on Facebook Messenger, but also through Snapchat, other social media tools, even text. And think about one way that a bot can be used. If you're already using it, think about one additional way that a bot can be used to move your organization's message and connection and communication forward. And I'm just going to respond while you're thinking about that, Amanda. That's free. Yeah, that's free. A lot of this stuff is amazing. It's the old you don't know what you don't know, which is shame because it's moving so fast, but there's really no shame about it because I can't keep up. Corbin, who does this, like I do for a living, we struggle to keep up. So you got to just keep thinking, keep taking a break, think about how it can be used. Let's keep moving on because we don't have a lot of time and I got still a lot of stuff to cover. 5G, the end of Wi-Fi. There's a statement for you. Think about this. You've all heard Apple and Verizon, T-Mobile, and Samsung. They're all talking about their 5G phones. Why is it so huge? It's the speed, obviously. The speed of the phone, the connectivity is much, much, much faster than the phones are now. And in a way, it's much faster than Wi-Fi is, which makes me think maybe in this decade, we're not going to have Wi-Fi anymore. It's all going to be cellular. But a few things to note about that. Just if you're following the news, you heard there was a huge to-do about whether these 5G rollouts near airports would be allowed and the fact that they might conflict with airplane navigation and landing tools. And guess what? I want to be on the side of being safe here, but we're going to be seeing this working out. It actually doesn't happen in other countries, but we're using a much faster part of the bandwidth. Getting too technical on that. But the bottom line is that once they figure this out, this rollout's going to become extensive. The real thing about Wi-Fi isn't the speed, it's the latency. And the only way I can describe that seamlessly is you're streaming Netflix and all of a sudden it stops, or all of a sudden you see a lot of pixelation on the screen. I'm not going to pick on Netflix. It could be Amazon Prime. It could be any of the streaming services you use. The reason for that typically isn't the speed. You probably have more than enough speed in your house. It's the latency. Right now, 5G will allow for latency that's faster than the blink of an eye. And that might completely change the game of how we connect online and how fast we can do everything. In fact, it is going to drive one new component that's been being talked about for years, and that's autonomous vehicles, that until that latency goes away, until we're able to make sure that it's getting all the correct cues and connections, ain't going to be happening because there's too much of a risk for accident. What I'm really looking at in this conversation is where's the money going to be? Because I think that's always the question about technology, isn't what the technology can do, but who's going to be able to make sure that it's funded and used properly so that we have the ability to use it. And oh, by the way, there's the privacy conversation. And did you know that they're talking about 6G already? Geez, who can keep up with all this? My gosh. So we got a few more things to talk about. I got some bonus tools. I want to make sure that we always give you enough tools to leave with. And one of them is going to be a great tool called online-convert.com. If you ever get a file and you need to convert it to almost anything else, there's a great tool completely free of charge. If you want, just send me a note. I'll give you the PowerPoint so you have that. I know that Megan and the great folks at Lake George are recording this, so you'll get this as well that way. Using photos, well, PicMonkey as my photo editor, but Unsplash and Pexels, two tools that people have uploaded photos that you can use free of charge. They just want attribution. They just want that. You might have seen it already on a few of my slides that I'm using from there, that I'm giving credit to the person who's putting that out there. Great tools that are there. Tech curation, Flipboard, the ultimate curation tool, a reader of news that will customize for your needs using artificial intelligence, combining with Pocket, the storage capability that we can take anything and read it and save it for later. Paperly, which uses artificial intelligence to pull information out of your Twitter feed and create daily newspapers like the one that you see below, all happening automatically. The ability to move information from point A, where we're reading it, to point B in the hands of your customers and clients is indeed essential. If you, like I have in the past couple of years, spent an awful lot of time in video, Handbrake will allow you free of charge. Don't you love that I keep saying the word free of charge? But free of charge, be able to take any video style that maybe you can't open and convert it into one that you can. And if you need to download videos from YouTube that you have permission to do, remember that's what we're talking about here. 4K video downloader, really cool as well. And it can't hurt to talk about safety a little bit. A safer search engine, DuckDuckGo, a safer browser. By safer, I mean they're not tracking you. Brave. And that leads us wait a minute, to the last major conversation we have to have, which is your security. Because if we've been doing anything the past couple of years, we've been getting our heads spun around to and fro about all these ways we can get attacked. Social engineering. What that means is they're not putting anything on your computer other than telling you to click a link, and guess what you're doing? You're clicking a link. You shouldn't be doing that. But those are social engineering attacks. There are attacks that don't even use any files, that they can put a macro in Office or something in a PDF, or even those browser extensions that can damage your computer. And oh yeah, the Internet of Things. What about your Nest Home? Air conditioning, heating, comfort unit, that's all Internet of Things, easy to hack into, or apps you get not from the traditional app stores. Wait, it's so much more. This is getting way out of control here. Man in the middle attacks, where I can be at a Starbucks and see all of the information that's going around that people are putting into their phones, and fake wireless protocols, and those plugs. Oh my gosh, there's just it's going on and on and on. All this because I want a double shot soy mocha frappuccino. It's just well there. Okay, it's way creepy. It's just too creepy. So 5 things I want you to make sure you have to protect yourself. Very simple. You probably have a few of them. The first one I know you got antivirus. You do, right? Funny enough, it's probably the one I am least adamant about, but it's the one that you already have because they're put on your computer. If you have a Mac, it's built in, so you don't need to do anything. You have a PC. Usually they're partnering with a McAfee or one of those companies to put it on there. Make sure it's there. Make sure it's active. Also, have an anti-malware solution. Could be part of the antivirus, but I use a tool called Malwarebytes. And by the way, I don't recommend anything. I'll just tell you what I use. And Malwarebytes for $15 a year protects. If I make that bad click on a link, it'll protect my computer to stop any file that's going to get downloaded that could damage my computer before it hits the hard drive. Really useful. A VPN, a virtual private network. As we get outside again and we get out to events, make sure whenever you're on a public Wi-Fi, you have a VPN. The one I use is TuttleBear. There's lots of them out there. Some are free, some aren't. Do your due diligence with all of these tools. Make sure you have tools that are reputable. Passwords. Oh my gosh. One word in the chat, yes or no. Do you have a password manager? If you don't know, the answer is no, by the way. So go into chat right now and just let us know, yes or no. Do you use a password manager? Take a look while we're talking about this. I get no. I'm not surprised. John, I get it. Good answer. I know you're not telling, and that's a cool thing. You should be using the password manager. My guess is that he probably is, and that's another conversation. But the reality is, here are the passwords you're probably using, because this came from NordPass. They have a top 10 list every year, and this is just off the presses, digital presses, that is, of the top used passwords. Okay, ready for them? If you see your password on here, you have the okay to cut this connection right now and go and change it. Okay, number 10 used password last year was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, number 9 was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, because obviously those 3 more characters and digits are highly more secure, right? Number 8 was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You get a sense of where we're going on this. Number 7 was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Number 6 was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 5 is the word password. At least we actually have a word in here. Did you know, I'm going to stop on this for a second. Did you know that the likelihood, if you're working out of home right now, that I know the password of your router? How do I know that? Because most of them have a default password in there. And that password is password. If I was near your house, that's not a reason not to invite me, by the way. But if I was near your house, or somebody who was a little bit skeevy was near your house, they could guess and probably get into your network really easy. Number 4, QWERTY, because nobody can figure out that's the top of the keyboard, right? Number 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the number 1 password with, believe it or not, over 100 million users last year was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have I made my point? Do I get a password manager? One that I use is called Dashlane. Another one that's great is LastPass, OnePass. You need to make passwords more difficult. Lastly, in this conversation, 2FA, two-factor authentication. You know it as the annoying text that you get to be able to log into Facebook or Google if you have enabled that. There are plenty of options. Some are built into sites. Some are app tools, including Google Authenticator and Authy, both of which I use to make sure that even if somebody steals my password, if they don't have my phone, then they don't have access. They don't have the keys to the kingdom, and that's what we want. So as annoying as all this is, it's going to be important for us to make sure as we are out more and more and more that we keep ourselves protected. By the way, if you're a Microsoft user and you see stuff like this, install it, please, as long as you know it's legit from them. Typically, when Microsoft sends out this update with all these new features, it's nothing more than them fixing a hole that has been found in their software that can actually put you at risk. It's called a zero-day attack. So when you get these, I know we tend to ignore them. Wait till the end of the day, but install them. You need to do that. So for a lot of people.
Hey, Jim, is there a password security checker that is safe to use online?
You know, I haven't seen any, but I gotta believe that, excuse me, some of those password managers do have. The most secure password is the one that you can't remember. And I know it's sort of tongue-in-cheek to some extent, but the reality is if you saw my passwords, you wouldn't be able to remember them, and I have no idea what they are. There are a random series of letters and numbers and characters and special characters in upper and lower cases. They tend to be long, 15, 20, 25 characters. The key, by the way, Megan, to a password manager that is effective is having a master password that you can and will remember. That's not easy for somebody to guess. So it got to be kind of tough, at least 20 characters on that. And that way, that gives you the access to your passwords to be able to use the passwords. I don't even need to know. If you asked me, if you said, I'll give you $100, Jim, if you could tell me your Amazon password right now. I couldn't. I don't know it. I know it looks funny, and I know it changes anytime I need it to. So I'm not as worried about having a tester as much as I am having a tough password that if I don't know what it is and I can't remember it, the likelihood is the person who's trying to log into you, they're going to go to somebody else because you're not the low-hanging fruit on the tree. So let's wrap this security conversation up with a test. I'm a teacher. I have to give a test, right? 100 points, 70 is passing. You're on the honor system. So here we go. Do you have an antivirus product installed and always running? If you do, and you probably do, you give yourself 10 points. By the way, 70 is passing, just so we're clear on that. Number 9, do you have an anti-malware solution installed and always running? 10 more points. If you're asking yourself what's an anti-malware solution, you cannot take the points, just so we're clear on that. Do you always use a personal VPN when on public Wi-Fi? 15 points for that. That's 35 points for those 3 very simple approaches. Get your auto updates on. I'll give you another 15 points. Here's the one that you're all thinking about. Do you only use Apple products? Because we know Apple is safer, and it is safer. And here's the points I'm going to give you. Nothing. I'm not going to give you a single point for that. Why? Because the problem isn't the device. The problem is our clicking on information that we shouldn't be clicking on. Doesn't matter how good the device is. If we click on that link that takes us to a site, the damage is done. So while I will always say Apple devices tend to be more secure, the real proof is in the pudding when you and I aren't doing anything to let people in the back door. Password Manager give you 10 points. Download apps only from official app stores or Glide, by the way, and we have to make that exception, 10 more points. Clicking on any email link that you are only 100% sure it's authentic, that's 10 points. The most updated version of your browser, I'll even give you 5 points for that too. 2-step authentication, 10. Nobody else ever used the device. Tell me in chat how many people. You got 70 points. So if you want to share your score, go for it. I'd love to see what people are doing here. If you've actually made 55, Jennifer, close. I'm actually kind of impressed with 55 because it's really difficult to get a very high score. I'm guessing I know you hate the antivirus software. Actually, you don't really hate the antivirus software for the lag. You hate all the other tools that are on there because antivirus software shouldn't have much of a lag. And if it does, you might need to change. And that's always a dangerous thing, antivirus software is. But for those of you who did not score 70 or higher, why not give you some bonus points? Okay, so a lot of common sense. I'm going to give you nothing. Sorry, you know this is the way it was coming there, right? If you do use Internet Explorer, I want you to take 10 points off. If you have any kids under 21 using your computer, please take 25 points off. And if your parents are using your computer, please take another 25 points off. And if both, you get the point. Don't share your computer. Just get one for yourself if you can. So we're at the finish line, kind of, sort of. Let's tie this whole hour together. Tech doesn't move back. Tech's always moving forward. Radio didn't go away 100 years ago. It morphed. It morphed into AM and FM. It morphed into satellite. It morphed into podcasts. It morphed into streaming. Tech doesn't go away. Even if we're not clear right now how we're going to use it, it's good to pay attention to it. But make sure it's right for your needs. Just because I'm telling you it's cool doesn't mean it works for your group. And this is really, really important. For a lot of you, the metaverse has no bearing on what you're going to do. And I'm 120% cool with that. I just want to make sure you're aware of it so you can talk the talk with your boss, so you have the conversation with your client to make sure that it's not right for you, because that's as good a solution as if it is right for you. And while you're doing that, listen. Just listen to what your constituents are saying. What are their needs? What are they using? What's their age? What are they comfortable with? All that is a great way to be able to know what the right technology is. And as always, stay safe. And my last safe issue here is your health comes first. And whether you're on an Apple or you're on an Android, there are products out there that you can put your health information in there. Megan alluded to the fact that I got very lucky and had a stroke and almost had a massive heart attack. And that's really, really figured in changing a lot of what I do. But part of what I do now is to make sure I have apps on there that if someone does see me, if I do have a situation that comes up medically, that they have all the information. And these tools work even if you have a lock screen on your computer. And by the way, if you have kids or you have parents, guess what, gang? You got to make sure they have this as well. So as we wrap this up, think about your one great takeaway. In fact, put it into the chat. I really want to see what that is. And at this point, I am so, so thankful that you've given me this time to be able to share all this. What I'm going to do right now is actually stop the sharing, come into live real screen with you, see what questions you got. I need a breath. I've talked about technology for an hour, so ask away. Sarah, happy to review the security checklist. Great. We love to make sure that we have people who are doing that stuff, the free stuff. You know, that the free stuff that's out there, John, is incredible. And a lot of the stuff isn't free forever, but it is the kind of situation that it'll be hopefully reasonably expensive. I know a lot of these tools have like a monthly $5, $6 a month approach. So Gina talks about Microsoft Edge comes up for PDFs. Yeah, it is a default. Gina, if you go into your settings on your computer, you can tell the computer what tool is used when a certain file type is opened. So right now it's defaulting for whatever Microsoft wants you to use. Just change that default that's in there. Vanessa mentioned is Adobe installed, and clearly Adobe being installed is a critical part of it as well. But there are free users as well. Amanda playing with Glide, yeah, that's so cool, so cool. So Megan, what else? What else we want to talk about in terms of technology? I'd love to be able to share anything else with the group here.
I'm looking through the chat. It looks like we've answered a lot of questions. There's one thing that was asked: does the McAfee cover both malware and the antivirus?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and the and is that it's not the same cost. You have to pay more to get the malware. And my take on antivirus, while I don't like McAfee and I don't like those basic ones that come there, it's really tough to get antivirus off your computer. And if you don't do it completely, you can actually make it look like you have a virus on your computer because they're competing for the same resources. So McAfee's on the computer you bought, max it out. Have the antivirus, and then if you want to also use the anti-malware, put that in there as well. You can have multiple anti-malware solutions, and that's something that's good to know. Amanda asked, how can you be sure she's using a VPN? You need to actually download the VPN first. So if you haven't downloaded a virtual private network, then you're not using one. There might be some stuff, depending if you have Apple, you might want to go to your settings and see if there's a default VPN that's in there. You'll see a little VPN in the settings, and you'd slide it over, and it will tell you what's in there. I use TunnelBear. Some people use NordPass as VPNs. So either of those two are good. I really, really think that getting one of those, and that's one you're going to probably need to pay for on an annual basis, $15, $20. I make it akin to the oil change in your car. You don't really want to have to do that and spend that time and spend that extra money, but it's sure going to make your car last a lot longer. And it's the same thing with this. So if you have a VPN, it's a matter of turning it on. If you don't know if you have one, go to your settings and see if it automatically goes on when you slide the dial over, and check out TunnelBear and NordVPN as two. And Vanessa, thanks so much for posting that, because they are a really good company as well.
Okay, I don't see any more major questions coming in, so I'm going to quickly wrap this up. So thank you so much, Jim, as promised. To